Hello everyone, welcome to today's demo. My name is Anna Stashkina and I'm in my home studio here in Chicago, Illinois. And I see that you are joining me live, so thank you so much. I hope you will like today's demonstration. We are going to talk about wafer paper and we are going to make something like this. These are real, so these are hydrangeas in this beautiful pink color I bought yesterday, not yesterday, 2 days ago at my local grocery store. So I was so inspired that I thought maybe we need to make them out of wafer paper. That's what we are going to do today. Hello everyone, I see all your comments from all over the world, from England, wow, from many countries. Let me know where you join me from. And I'm in Chicago and it is raining again, and you can see it is Illinois, so what you can say about that. And if you had a minute, you should be able to download this template and supply list. Let me put it in a comment for you to have a link to download. And let me see if you can, let me know if you can see me, you can hear me, everything is working fine. I will save this demo as far as technology goes. So hi from Utah, hi from Austin, Texas. Wow, I hope it's much warmer in Utah and in Texas there is now in Chicago. It looks sad. I would prefer to have some sunshine because it's Wednesday, it's almost like the middle of the week and we are here. Thank you so much for joining me. So let's talk about our tools and materials that we are going to use today. If you have this template and this supply list, it should be no problem for you to find your tools and supplies. Hi Ruth! Ruth is one of my students. We did a peony class together last week. Was it last week? Yes, it was last week. And she made an amazing flower. Hi Evelyn, hi everyone. That's amazing. We are having a lot of people today, which makes me happy. And so for supplies list, what I mean by sharp scissors, if you can see on my list, I have specification for sharp scissors. I have these two types. Usually I use this one. These are craft scissors I bought at Michael's. And these are my all-time favorite small but sharp scissors to cut wafer paper. Because if you do not have your scissors sharp enough and you're using something like kitchen scissors, it will make your the ends on your wafer paper is not so clean, so it will be much harder to work with that. And flat brushes, these are regular art craft brushes. I usually prefer to use something like angled brush, but I used this today, so I will be using this later. I prefer angle, but still synthetic and flat. And I use white brushes because then I can see if this brush is clean enough for me to use again and again. And sometimes if you have those small, like this, something like this, brown brushes, it's impossible to see if the brush is clean to use on a next project. Fluffy makeup brush. This is my favorite fluffy makeup brush. It's meant to apply blush. I think it's a blush brush to your face, and something that's meant to work with powders, either powder brush or blush brush or like contouring brush, something like this. We're going to apply cornstarch using this brush. Hydrangea petal veneer or ivy leaf silicone veneer. I have a hydrangea veneer set, but it looks like a joke. It's not even going to make any difference. So I bought this, I don't know, some time ago, but it is so small. It just, I don't know what size of petals should I use. to use this. So if you have something that is more significant in size and easy to use that. But this is just like, it is so tiny, yeah, it is even uncomfortable to use. And you have this set. These are I don't even remember, Peony Ivy leaf weaving set. This made out of rubber, which is not my preferred material, but for hydrangea they work and they give me enough texture, so you can use that. If you have none of that, as usual, peony veneer, my favorite to work with wafer paper, you can use that as well. And I have petals flying around that I made earlier. So next is rose leaf veneer. That's what we are going to use for our leaves, and I hope it will fit. Yeah, it should fit for hydrangea leaves. And plastic spoon or petal former, something like this or like this. And when working with wafer paper, I prefer to use something plastic like spoon or petal former to shape my petals, just because when I use foam, like bumpy foam like that, or cardboard, you know those apple crates that you can get at the grocery store. In my experience, if you use any cardboard to shape your petals, it sucks moisture more than I can control. So I prefer to use plastic as a former for my petals. And needle nose pliers to make hooks, but any tool will work what is comfortable for you. And I see, hi Blake, hi Melinda, hi from Portugal. I love Portugal. I've been there many times, and Portugal just such a beautiful and amazing country. I wanted to go there as soon as we are going to be done with all this thing that's going on. We are not talking about. And next on my list is materials. For materials, first of all, of course, wafer paper, because that's what we are going to work with today. And I use two types of wafer paper. I have O grade 0.22 millimeters and premium 0.27 millimeters. And you can barely tell any difference between them. I just know that this one is premium and this one is O grade. So whatever you have on hand, whatever you prefer, just make it work. And I keep it in a Ziploc bag like that. And I usually go through, because I make a lot of wafer paper flowers, I go through packs of wafer paper relatively fast, so I don't have any issues with storing them. But if your bag is sealed and you keep it in a cupboard somewhere, it should be absolutely fine for, I don't know, 20-50 years. Nothing is going to happen to your wafer paper. Hi Debbie, hi everyone, hi Melinda, hi Trisha, hi Gabriela. Oh yeah, a lot of my friends in real life are here, which makes me blush a little bit and smile, because I miss everyone and I'm happy that we have so many people join us live. Yes, Melinda, I see that you are watching. Finally, I was worried about you and all the connection and technologies and everything. So this is some wafer paper I use, and regular wafer paper O grade or AD grade usually has two sides, because I know some premium like wafer paper cardboards, cardstock, something like thicker, and that wafer paper has only one side, like the shiny side. And here on this piece I have one is bumpy side and one is shiny side, so smooth side. I personally prefer to work on a bumpy side because it has some texture and I can use it in my advantage, so I don't need to work extra hard to get this texture. That's just my preference, but either of those will work, no problem. There is nothing specific or like no strict rules about working with wafer paper. Make it work for you, that's it. Food grade glycerin, you probably already know that I use food grade glycerin for my wafer conditioner. This is one from some company in Florida, but I bought on Amazon. And if you can buy one by Wilton from Michaels or any craft store, totally fine. They work the same. They meant to, or they used to condition your fondant most of the time, or to dilute your gel colors if it's too thick. So just food grade glycerin. Hello everyone, hello Karen, hello Elizabeth, hello Jackie. Oh, that's amazing. I'm like, green and red food gel colors. I use artisan accents because that's what I have on hand. It's fine, it works. It just works, and that's it. And I will also going to use some what is called petal dust. And I tried one today. I used this Moss Green by Crystal colors, and I tried to dilute it in my conditioner mixture, and I used this today to precolor my leaves, some of my leaves, and I'll walk you through and I'll show you how I did that as well if you do not have gel colors or you don't want to use gel colors. Hi Blake, my brother from another mother. That's wonderful. Thank you, Tina, for sharing this demo. If you feel like somebody who would like to learn this and watch it with us, just share. It will make me even happier, and I'm already very, very, very happy to be here. But share with your friends, and let's have some fun together. Next on my list is wafer glue. This is just, it's clean. It's a piece of pink, is just a piece of gel color in here. It didn't go bad yet. I just made it. So this is just wafer paper and water mixed together and let them to sit for like overnight or a few hours to dissolve. Hot pink, green, and brown petal dust. Hot pink I have by Global Sugar Art. This is hot pink, but I actually use this hot pink and peony by Crystal colors together, and they worked wonderful. I have Moss Green by Crystal color, and this is very dark chocolate by Crystal color. Because if you're looking to buy any petal dust, I really, really, really like Crystal colors because these colors are food grade. They are totally safe to consume, and the company Crystal Colors itself, the couple who owns this company, they're just such a sweet people, and I would like to support them. So that's why I usually most of the time I use Crystal Colors dusts, but whatever works for you. White gum paste, I have satin eyes, but any gum paste will work. And I actually do not even have white. I have just a small piece of blush pink, or like almost my skin color pink, and I'm going to use that because we are working under very interesting conditions, and that's why I prefer to use what I have, and I'm not going out and buying more things that I actually don't need. So let's start with cutting petals and working with wafer paper. To transfer your petal or your template to wafer paper, there are, I don't know, many different ways, but the way I do that, I either place my wafer paper on top, and I'm using a deadly end of Dresden tool to go around and just make indentations. I hope you can see that. That's one of the easiest way to do that. You can use a pencil, but if you're using regular pencil, just go a little bit outside of your template, so when you're cutting out your petal, you won't see these lines, so you need to be careful about that, because pencil line will disturb your template, like your wafer paper. So I'm going to use Dresden tool again for the sleeve. Just to make indentations, because I wanted to keep this template for later if I need to use it. And to cut petals, I'm going to use small scissors and cut my leaf like that. And these templates are like this one. This is just a guide. This is not something you're supposed to be extremely strict about, because if you look at hydrangeas, let me finish with this leaf. It is always, of course, nice to work with the real flower or have something to look at like a real flower. But if you look at these flowers, even leaves, some sizes are much smaller than the other. So even these petals, some larger and some smaller. So if you have your templates on hand, you can make it larger, like you can enlarge your template when you're printing, or you can make it small, because here, like the best part, this is the most beautiful flowers right here, because they are two-tone, and these leaves also in a different sizes. Some of them are more mature, so they are larger, and some of the tiny leaves are really small and beautiful. So if you have something to look at, it always helps to choose your colors and to choose your size and adjust your templates. So for this smaller ones, I'm going to stack them on top, so I have a few layers of wafer paper at once. And I have my template just scratched on the surface, and I'm going to cut them together. And what I found, for me, if I need to cut more than just one petal in one shape, stacking wafer paper works perfectly, and I just need to stack about 3 layers of wafer paper, and it's totally fine. So I'll do the same for my smaller petal, and I'm trying to reuse my wafer paper as much as possible. So I'm cutting inside my pencil marks to make sure that it's not going to change and affect my petal when I'm going to color it. Like that. Make sure everything is clean. So now I have 4 petals and 1 leaf for my flower. Let's put it aside. And never throw away pieces of your wafer paper. You can save it. I usually keep it in a bag, and you can reuse it again and again for making wafer glue, or we are going to use a small piece to make our flower center. Just keep it in a bag somewhere, and feel free to reuse it as much as you need to. That's what I use for making my wafer glue and to wire my petals. So first thing we are going to do is we are going to prepare our leaf, and I have bumpy side and I have shiny side, and I'm going to work on a shiny side first and take my wire. I have 26 gauge floral wire by Peony, and if you're working with wafer paper, you need to pay attention to your wire and use as high quality as you can get your hands on. This Peony wire works for me very well compared to craft wire you can buy at Michael's or at the craft store. So I would highly recommend to buy a good quality floral wire. I'm lucky enough to live close by to a PME store here just outside of Chicago, and usually I go there and buy my wire there just like in bulk all the time, because that's what I use all the time. So I'm going to cut my wire in half, and I'll use one for my leaf and 2 pieces for my flower. I'll put it aside for a second. And I've been experimenting with wiring wafer paper lately, and what I found that I can just dip my wire same as you do with your gum paste. So I'm covering my wire in wafer glue up to about maybe 3/4 high of my leaf. So if my leaf is let me see, the leaf side is almost 3 inches, so my wire is covered in wafer glue up to 2 inches, and you can see is just wafer glue. I hope you can see. So I have some glue on my wire up to my fingernail, and what I'm going to do to wire my leaf is I'm going to place my wire on top and press it down like this, and that's it. And I've tested this method earlier today and it worked. And so usually what I do is I place another piece of wafer paper on top to sandwich that, but if you place it like that, and you can see I have some wafer glue on my wire stuck to the back side of wafer paper, the shiny side. If you look from this side, it looks even cleaner than it was before. And you need to let it dry for a few hours, so I'm going to place it on a flat surface like this, wire up. And if your wafer paper is misshapen or something, put something on top to weigh it down. What I did earlier today when I was testing this method, so I had my petal laying down like that, and I just placed a piece of foam on top to keep it flat. That's what I'm going to do as well. And that's how it looks after drying for maybe a few hours. So you can see this wire attached to a wafer paper, and it melted, and it also almost like welded together, if I can say so. That's what we are going to use to color our leaves. And I placed that one on the side to dry. And now we are going to make a wafer conditioner and now start to work on our petals. And then we're going to color them and assemble, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Let me know if you have any questions. If you need a template or you don't know where to get this template, I pinned the comment in the chat box. Or if you need and you totally do not know how to find this template, just leave me a comment, and after the demonstration I will go back and answer all your comments and questions if I missed something, but I hope I'm not going to miss any. So I have 2 wires here. These are 26 gauge white paper covered wire by Peony, and I'm going to make small hooks using my needle nose pliers. So just small round hooks like that. And for one part I'm going to use a piece of gum paste. This is gum paste by Nice. This is just pin gum paste, and basically what I need is the like tiny pea size, maybe like peppercorn size of gum paste, maybe even smaller, something like this. So the size of a black pepper corn. And I usually do not dip my wire in a gum glue when I'm adding gum paste to sander, especially because this is so small. But if you feel like you need to add gum glue, feel free to do that. I just, when I'm working with cyanidized gum paste, I find it's really pliable and easy to shape, and I didn't use any cornstarch on my fingers, nothing, it just works. So what I'm doing here is I'm almost creating like a matchstick head, something small like this, to look like a hydrangea center. If you feel fancy, you can use a Dresden tool or any tool and add marks to your center and divide it by 4. Something like that. I don't know if you can see that. So something like that, and put it on the side to dry. Or if you don't want to work with gum paste, or you don't have gum paste and you want to make everything out of wafer paper, I'll show you the way to make it out of wafer paper. Take a piece of wafer paper, cut it in a strip, maybe 1/4 inch by 1.5 inches. But it doesn't matter because amount is same as working with gum paste. It depends on the way you work with that. And I'm going to use just a little bit of wafer glue and apply it to my paper strip. Here I'm applying my glue to a shiny side, so to a smooth side, and saturate this strip so it begins to melt. So it's sticky all around. And I'm going to take my wire and place it and stick it to my wafer paper strip. And I'm going to turn it and cover my wire piece in the wafer paper. And this is the bumpy side. It is not sticky. I have no glue on the bumpy side. I only have glue on this shiny side. So now my wire is covered, and I'll take a little bit of cornstarch on my finger, and I'm going to shape it the way you work with gum paste. So you will feel it, and you can shape it, and you can make your flower center out of wafer paper, same as you work with gum paste. And if you have a little bit more than you would like to have, just use your fingernails or scissors to snip it off and shape it till you have it in a shape like this. So this made out of wafer paper, and this center made out of gum paste. They look different, but if you don't want to use gum paste and you just want to use wafer paper, this will totally work for you. And then if you want, you can color and make it look interesting. How are you doing over there? Any questions so far? Or you're working with me? Who's working with me today? Let me know in the comments, and I'll go back and I'll ask you about your results later. Oh, so let's start with the fun part. Let's start with coloring our petals. To do that, I'm going to use food grade glycerin, 1 drop. I don't need much today because I'm only going to use this on the small petals, and they are, so I don't need to use as much product as I'm going to use for a leaf or something larger than that. Yes, I'm going to save this live. I'm going to try to save this live because technologies, you know how they work. They do not work in our advantage sometimes. So I'll do my best to save this live demo. I have 1 drop of food grade glycerin. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of water. Half a teaspoon. I don't need much. And I'm going to add red gel color because I want to paint the base of my petals in pink color. And I'm going to take a toothpick and add this on a toothpick. It is much easier to control when you use a toothpick while adding your color, and on also because you're not putting your brush in your gel color, it helps your gel color to stay fresh longer. So that's what I have here is my excuse me, my mixture. When putting the paper leaves together, is it shiny side up? When I'm wiring, you mean this when I place a wire, I have shiny side up and I attach my wire to shiny side, because rough side is my face side and I'm going to use that as my face side, and I do not want to see wire on that. So shiny side up when I'm attaching your wire. So here again in my bowl I have a mixture of red gel color, food grade glycerin and water. And I'm using this large brush because what I found that when you're working even with smaller leaves or petals, the larger your brush, the less movement you need to make to add color to your petal. Because if you're using something like much smaller like this, you will need to paint on your petal over and over and over and over again, and it will destroy or dissolve your wafer paper and your petals. So something maybe not that big if you are not comfortable, but at least I would prefer to have something at least half of the size of my petal. So for a small petal, I'm going to prepare my cornstarch, my fluffy brush, and a few of my veneers. I'm going to use this small veneer by, this is, I guess it's a second size from a set. So I'm going to put it here, and I'll take my floral pot, I'll put it on the side, because what I found, if I'm working with wafer paper and I place it directly on something like this mat or silicone or my table, it might stick. So I prefer to work on a floral pot because it's covered in cornstarch and it's easier for wafer paper not to stick to, if it makes any sense. So for my smaller petal, this is my top part, and this sharp side is my bottom side, so it is going to grow like this. I'm placing it on my table, making sure that my table is dry and nothing is going to stick to it. A rough side up, I'm loading my brush and I'm almost removing all the liquid from my brush. So you can see when I press it down on my mat, I see all the liquid escapes, and now this brush is almost just damp, so it's not wet, it's not soaking wet, it just moistened enough to color my petal. And I'm brushing this petal relatively fast, and you can see that some of these parts are a little bit darker and some of them are lighter. Ideally, if you're working with wafer paper and you want to have the perfect, like, nice coverage, you need to make sure that your petal is the same color. So definitely on this side, like here you see it's dark, and here it means it has too much moisture, like more than I would love to have. So next step, almost immediately, I'm taking a little bit of cornstarch on my brush and I'm pressing it down, making sure that I can control amount of moisture in my petal. So now it is moist, so it's damp, but it's not sticky. I'm placing this in my veneer, pressing it down gently, very gently. I'm not trying to tear this apart, I'm just trying to implement some texture to my petal, and hold until 5. Which is the proportion of glycerin and water? It depends on your humidity. So today it is relatively humid outside, so I would rather use less glycerin, more water. So 1 drop of glycerin to about a teaspoon of water. But if you're working in a dry condition, like you live in Colorado or somewhere it's actually really dry, or here in Illinois during the winter time when we have heat on, I use more glycerin, less water, because it helps water to stay in my petal longer. What are you conditioning leaves with? Leaves, I haven't worked on my leaves yet, so I'm working with petals, if that's what you mean. I'm using a mixture of glycerin, water, and food gel color. So it's been in my vinegar a little bit too long, but it's fine. We can make it work. So here you can see I have veins and texture on my leaf, so I'm going to place it on a mat to dry shiny side up, because I found it helps to keep it flat compared to if you put it like this, moisten side up. Sometimes it can curl, but if you place it upside down, its own weight will help it to prevent it from melting. So small petal again, and you can see I'm not dipping my brush into my mixture. I'm just trying to find dry spot on my table and use conditioner that I have in my brush. Brushing it again, and I'm looking at my petal and I'm trying to see how well conditioned this petal is. So now I have the opposite problem. I have a tiny bit of a wider spot compared to the rest of the petals, so I didn't apply enough moisture on this side. But if I will go back again and again, I will destroy my petals. So we are going to work with what we have. A little bit of cornstarch in my vinegar, press it down. And usually I just count till 5, so I do not wait for hours till it's dry. I just press it down and count till 5. But I'm using this second to answer your questions. Do you paint both sides of the petal? No, I'm only working on my rough side. I don't paint the other side because I prefer to work with thinner wafer paper, and I don't think, or I don't feel that I need to paint both sides. How many petals in advance? Let me see your comments. Okay. You make the petals in advance, like 3 days before. Yes, you can make them years before if you store them in a daily container. I usually store mine in a daily container, something like this. This is wafer paper. In a closed container somewhere in the cupboard, you can make them months in advance. Nothing is going to happen. The only one thing that can happen, if you use gel colors, especially pink or purples, and you leave it outside in the daylight, it might change the color, or like you might see some discoloration, because same with fondant. If you color your fondant with pink gel colors, it will discolor relatively fast. Can you use white alcohol instead of water of conditioning petals? You can try. It depends again on your environment. For me, I don't use alcohol first. I don't drink alcohol. And second, like maybe the main reason, because if I use alcohol instead of water, I cannot use gel colors, because gel colors are, at least this one, they are water-based, and if I add alcohol, I can see like tiny clouds in my conditioner, and I do not like that. And third reason I don't use alcohol, because it evaporates much faster compared to water, and I found that if I use alcohol, my petals are much more brittle compared to using just mixture of glycerin and water. But you should try and let me know if you like it more than working with water. Maybe I'll give it another go, but I didn't have any luck with using alcohol. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for joining me. This is just like I'm trying to go through your will this tutorial be available to replay? I'll do my best to save it. Fingers crossed for technology angels. Yes, thank you so much for helping and answering questions. I think my petals already like dry inside the vinegar. So let's do the larger ones. And same method, a little bit of moisture. And I'm checking my brush and I see that I still have conditioner in my brush. So I'm applying moisture on my front side, which is bumpy side, and I'm trying to saturate it well enough but not melt it, so not to have like white spots or dark spots and have it like the same color all over. And if you're working with the colored conditioner like this one, you should have no problem with coloring your wafer paper and you will able to see where you have white spots. That means you didn't apply enough conditioner, or you will see like dark red spots. That means you apply a little bit too much. So you can know and you can practice and you can see and adjust that. So again, wafer conditioner, a little bit of cornstarch, vein in my veneer. You can see it takes on texture very well with this conditioner. That's why I like it, and that's why I use this mixture, this conditioner and cornstarch. And ideally, I will try not to go over my petal again and again and just do one swipe, but it's easier for me to manage this in a way when I go, maybe my brush is a little bit like drier, but I'll do another pass with my conditioner, and it helps to manage the petal easier, especially on these tiny petals like this hydrangea petals. Okay, now I can see your comments. That's interesting. Okay, so again, I'm placing it on my mud, shiny side up to let it dry. And let's do the same for the green leaf and green petals. I have a few more petals pre-cut, and I'll just show you how to color with another color, with the green, which is a little bit brighter and deeper than my pink one. And to make this green color mixture, you can see I have some residue in there because I used moss green petal dust, and I mixed it the same with the food grade glycerin and water, but it didn't dissolve as much as gel color would dissolve in a like water and glycerin mixture. But I actually like it if I mix it well enough, and I can transfer these tiny dots on my petal. It even make it look even better and like realistic. So I'll do the same. Let's do two large ones. They are a little bit easier for you to see. So just a tiny bit on my brush. I'm unloading my brush on a mat I'm working on, coloring them. And if you're making a lot of petals at the same time, you can apply your conditioner and let it soak for a little bit, like for a second, before you apply cornstarch. And you usually depends on your humidity in your room, but I can color at the same time and conditioner up to 4 petals, and it works for me, but probably not today. Again, in my veneer, and press it down. for a second and count till 5. Taking this out, shiny side up to dry, a little bit more cornstarch to this part in a vinegar, and let it take its shape from the vinegar. So I'm pressing relatively light but firm, if it makes any sense. And sometimes I get questions about putting petals in the vinegar and you see all the breakage. The main reason I found why you have this, if you place your petal and it's not moist enough, you press it in your vinegar and you hold it in your hands and do it like this, you will misshape and tear your petal apart. So I highly recommend working on a table. So you're placing your vinegar on a table, you're placing your petal, you're closing it up, and you're pressing and you're holding. You're not going like this or like this, because this what causes your petals to be disturbed. And you saw I made how many petals, and they look not perfect, but they look good enough for wafer paper. We are working with wafer paper, we are not working with gum paste. So that's one of my tips how to work with wafer paper. Okay, now we have our petals colored and we have our petals almost dry here on the mat. And it depends on your environment, but usually it takes just a few minutes for these petals to dry. And these green are still a little bit wet, so I'll put them on the side. And I have few more petals pre-made because we are going to dust them now. And what I have here, do I have more pink one? Yes, I have a few small pink one. So let's color them together. And to dust my petals, I'm going to use petal dusts and my fingers. Nothing specific about that. And let me take, I have two birds sitting on my porch. Very lovely. So I'm taking a piece of wax paper, sorry, and I prefer to use dust on top of wax paper or parchment paper or something I can discard easier than just washing my table and cleaning my table. So what I have here is Hot Pink by Global Sugar Art. This color is Peony by Crystal Colors, and that's what I'm going to use, at least for now. And I'll take maybe, this is a very dark chocolate by Crystal Colors as well. I might use it, might not, we'll see. And I need just a little bit of cornstarch and these two colors, so Hot Pink and Peony. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my finger to color these petals. So these are our pink petals, we made them earlier, and you can see that on a real flower they are lighter on one side but darker on the other side. To dust my petal, I'm going to mix these colors, two of them, Hot Pink and Peony, and add just a little bit of cornstarch. So I have color on my finger. And I'm going to brush, so I'm holding my petal and I'm just going to color it like this. And brush on top of my petal. So you can see that the deeper parts are still light pink, but the main part, like the raised parts, are much brighter. And if I want to add more, I'll go and add more and make it look the way I want it to make. If you feel adventurous and you want to add a little bit of brown, I'm using another finger and just lightly brushing with brown. So now it looks like a real petal. And I'll do the same for all my petals. If you don't like to do this part, you can use a glove or something, but if you are going to use a brush, like regular brush to dust your petals, I'll show you how it's going to look like. You just load in your brush, and when you go and dust your petals, even like with the brightest color, you can see how dull and not interesting is that. I'm just going and pressing really hard, but you can see the difference between dusting with a brush and dusting with your finger. Yay, from here. Because when you're using a brush, all the dust just cover the whole surface in between, and all the raised and like deep parts. But if you're using your finger, you're just rubbing your finger on the top surface, and it helps to bring all this veins and show and make it much brighter. So I'm just doing the same and brushing it on top. So that's what I found works better with wafer paper, and same for gum paste. If you want your leaves or like petals to be much brighter and have this distinctive difference between raised parts and veined parts, using your finger helps a lot with that. Let me know if you have any questions while I'm dusting my leaves, my petals. Would using brushes give the same effect? No. No. Maybe try another brush. Maybe try make it like a paste consistency, not just dry. But what I found with wafer paper and using dry wafer paper, like already shaped, going like this helps a lot to add much more interest. Like for example here, this petal is green, so its under color is green, and I'm going to add a little bit more cornstarch to my petal mixture and brush it to bring it to life. So you can see the difference. In this petal. Another one. And you can control how much color you apply or how bright your color is. I like using this hot pink by Global Sugar Art because it gives such an interesting undertone, really bright, and brings these petals to life. You can color your petals darker on one side and lighter on the other side, and it will be totally fine. And 2 more to go, and we are going to assemble. And it's just fun to do it like this. And the last one. I want to add more hot pink on one side and peony on the other side. And rub it in a little bit. So I'm done with coloring my petals, and we are going to assemble. How to do that? And you can see even some of my petals were conditioned with green color and some with pink after applying this dust all over my hands. They look like they are from the same family, but when we started, these were green and this one were pink, and now they look like they can belong to a same flower because we added the same color of dust to both of them. So let me clean my hands and see your comments. Oh, thank you so much. You can use the same technique when you're working with gum paste. You can use the same technique when you're working with and making leaves. It's totally fine and interesting to do that. And if you do not want to dip your finger in dust, you can use you can wear gloves, but I just do not like to do that, especially now. So it's different from gum paste. Wafer paper flowers bear dust and with the finger, and gum flowers with the brush. I dust most of my flowers using my fingers because I think that it gives much more like a thickness and density in color. And especially if I'm doing leaves or I need to add highlights and I'm making for example, eucalyptus out of gum paste, I will dust it using my finger to keep the main color deep down, like all the veins, to show it more. So it depends on your application. If you want your color to be much deeper, I would prefer to use my finger. If I do not care much about the color and I just want to be dusted somehow, I will use brush for gum paste and wafer paper as well. How do you decide which color to put on your finger first? I have first. To decide, I choose my main color. For this application, my main color is a mixture of hot pink and peony. So this is the color that will go first. And I mix it with hot pink and peony and a little bit of cornstarch because these colors are so saturated, and I applied that. If I would prefer my main color to be dark green, I will mix dark green and apply it first. And usually I go from lighter to darker, so some places I applied these brown spots, and I know that brown is much darker compared to pink, so pink goes first because it's lighter, and then brown because it's darker. I hope I answered your question. I hope I understood your question, and I hope I answered your question. Let me know if you need any more explanation about the color. So we are going to assemble our flowers. And because this is wafer paper, a nice thing about working with wafer paper, you can make your flowers without any wiring in your petals. So I have my pre-made gum paste center here, and I'm going to take my gum glue in my tiny brush and apply a little bit on my gum paste center right here. Just brush it lightly, and I'm going to choose 4 petals to be my first flower. Let's do this large 4 and this tiny one, so 3 large petals. In my template it says 2 and 2 for each flower because most of the flowers has 2 large petals and 2 small petals, but because I want to make them not so identical, I want to make them interesting, I'm going to use 3 large petals and 1 small petal, and another next flower I will use smaller petals more. So I'm applying just a touch of gum glue on the bottom portion of my petal, just tiny bit. like that. Hey, don't be rude. And I'm taking my flower center and applying my first petal from the bottom, like that. My second petal opposite of that, and I stick them together. So I can hold them for a second and they will take on a new shape, being stuck to this gum paste center. The petals are flexible or not. They are the same flexibility as your wafer paper. So you can flex them, they are not going to break. But they are definitely not soft. They hold their shape. But they are flexible. Same as wafer paper, flexible. Finger painting seems great. Yes, especially if you need to have some stress relief and relaxation. Finger painting is the best thing you can do. It helps you to have some like mental space and relax a little bit. So my third petal, I'll turn it upside down and place it on my mat. My third petal will go in between on one side. And because I have a little bit of glue on the bottom of my petal, it will stick to these two petals. Okay, I'm talking too much. Let me do this first and I'll explain it. So here, a little bit of glue. So I took too much, it's dried out before I applied all the petals. So first petal, second petal, they should stick to each other. Third petal. And fourth petal. Like that. You leave your centers white. Yes, I do, because like on a real flower, they are barely green. So they are more white than green. And I think it's a nice contrast between your bright petals and your center. So I will put it upside down on my foam to dry. And my petals touching my table, because I want them to hold the shape in this position. And I will leave it to dry for some time. So let's do another one, but I'll show you how to actually do this and not to talk too much. Now I have 3 small petals and 1 large, but it doesn't matter, whatever you prefer, whatever looks great for you. I'm applying gum glue to the bottom, maybe 1/8 of an inch in. I'm taking another center. This is gum paste center as well. I prepared earlier. Applying a little bit of glue here. And I'll take my floral pot. If you're not comfortable and you're not sure if your gum paste will stick, I'm taking, this is thin floral foam. So my first petal will go underneath. And I'm sticking it to my center and my wire at the same time, like that. My second one is opposite of that. And they should stick to each other and to the center. My third one and my fourth one. And because gum glue melts wafer paper, it becomes one flower. And now you can see that it's already stuck together and it's already glued together. And if you let it dry like this, you can leave it to dry on your foam like that, somewhere in a cup, on a cup. Yeah. Must the center be totally dry before applying petals? I would recommend you to have your flower center to be totally dry before applying your petals, because then you can press on your center to help it to hold it together. Oh, that's great to know that my tutorials are so relaxing. We're having a nice day today. We are about to have fun and relax and enjoy each other's company, so I'm happy to hear that and this time I'm bringing you a little bit more relaxation. So I have last 4 of my petals. Again, wafer glue on the bottom, just a little bit. And for this application, if you used to work with water and wafer paper, I highly recommend you trying to make wafer glue. It's a life-changing. I know that many students in my classes who tried using wafer glue instead of water were like, yes, it is actually working, and it works much better compared to having using regular water, because water melts your wafer paper and gum glue just makes it sticky and pliable more than water, and it's something that you need. And using gum glue with wafer paper, in my experience, it melts wafer paper even more than just using water. So all my 4 petals stick to my center, same as I did for the previous one. And if you are not comfortable with just sticking wafer paper petals together, feel free to use gum glue in between and apply gum glue and stick your petals to each other. Like here, just a little bit of gum glue. They will stick together on this side, and a little bit of gum glue, not gum glue, sorry, wafer glue on this side. So they will stick together like 4 of them. And then you just need to put it on the center, turn it upside down and leave it to dry. I'll show you again the easiest way of doing that. Why you don't want to go there? Okay, like that. So for example, I have 4 more petals here. You can use your petal 1, stick your petal 2 on top of your petal 1. You can take your petal 3, stick your petal 4 on top, apply a little bit of glue here, stick them together, hold it for a second, add just a touch of gum glue in the center, and pass it through all 4 layers. I use this method as well, but sometimes I think that this doesn't look as realistic as something when you just stick petals one by one for some reason. But whatever works for you and whatever is easier for you, just use that method. But either one are usable and easy to make. So I'll place this petal here on the side to dry, and all my petals are touching my table, as you can see, because I don't want to lose my center, and I want my center to be attached to my petals. That's why they are all touching the center, at least for a few minutes, until the wafer glue will become not so sticky. What the difference between gum glue and wafer glue? Yes, that's what I said. Gum glue is made out of tallow powder and water, and that's the edible glue you use to work with gum paste and fondant. And wafer glue is this mixture, and it's made out of wafer paper and water. So I saved these small pieces of wafer paper and I cut them using scissors like to smaller pieces, and I put it in this glass shot and add water and let it sit overnight to melt, and that's what I use as my gum glue. That way is more easy. Yeah, okay, whatever works for you. I wanted to show you all the methods and ways you can do that, and I wanted to inspire to try and see what method is better for you. Sometimes for some flowers I use the second method, and for some flowers I use the first one. It depends on the flower, and it depends on the humidity around, and the way the flower tells me to do things. I hope it... I don't think it makes any sense that flower is talking to me, but it is what it is. So let's work on our leaf and see if we can make it darker green, and we can vein our leaf as well. So I'm going to go back to my green conditioner. Do you do first the big petals and after the smallest? No. Like even on real flowers, sometimes larger petals go first and smaller second, and sometimes it's the opposite. So usually I just the prettiest petal, because some of these petals even I have here different colors. Some of those petals are the most beautiful and delicate and nicest one. They will go first because I want them to be face up, and some of the petals are not so perfect. They will go last because I want to hide them a little bit. So there is no main reason or rule how to do that. Just look at your flower, look at your petal. What you wanted to see should go first. What you do not want to see or want to hide a little bit should go last. That's the main rule to do that. Oh, thank you. My absolute pleasure. So for the leaf, because I wanted this leaf to be much darker on all sides, I'm going to color my leaf on both sides. First side is going to be my shiny side, so my back side. I'm brushing it lightly, trying to avoid where my wire were, and apply cornstarch immediately, because this leaf is too large and it might melt immediately. So it is not sticky, and I'm going to add a little bit of my moss green color to my mixture, because I want this conditioner to be even darker. So I'm taking this on my table. And I'm trying to clean my table as I go, because working with dust and gel colors, it will be all over my table and everywhere. So I'm taking my mixture and mixing it on a table to make it darker green. And now I'm going to color my front part. And because I used a little bit of more of moss petal dust, you can see that this mixture is much darker compared to just conditioner from the bowl. And I'm applying cornstarch to prevent melting. And I'm going to place my petal. You can see how soft is that, but wire is still stuck to the petal. In my veneer, make sure it is not sticky. If I need to add more cornstarch, I will definitely do that. Like that. Press it and hold it and count till 5. And we're almost done with our flowers. Let's check. Yeah, it didn't took as much shape as I thought because this veneer is too stiff. And if you have some that are silicone veneers, it will work better, but I'm still going to use this. Because the difference between silicone veneers and rubber veneer, this one is a rubber one. So when I squish it, it is so hard, so it is not pliable. And for wafer paper, something like this, silicone veneers work much better. You can see the difference between rubber veneer. This is CK Rose Leaf Veneer by CK. This is so hard and this is so soft. So if you want to work with wafer paper and add more texture, I highly recommend you to look to buy silicone veneers compared to rubber ones, because I tested on this leaf and it doesn't have as much texture as I would prefer it to have, but it is what it is. And now what I have here is I have quite a few of my flowers. And if you're doing the same, if you assemble your flowers on a wafer paper center that we made using wafer paper, you're doing the same technique, so nothing specific about that. I made one yesterday. I was doing a test, so I made one in white with the wafer paper center, but I used green wire, so it still shows. But you can see it's working the same. So my flowers, quite a few of them, all over my table. They are dry, and you can see they are stuck together and they hold perfectly together. So now I'm going to assemble them. Let me take floral tape. I'll take a piece of white floral tape and put them together. How are you doing over there? Do you have any questions? How is your flower coming together? So something like this. And that's another nice thing about wafer paper, is virtually unbreakable. This is a little bit wet still, so I'm going to use this and put it together in this tiny arrangement. And now you have it. Does this look real? Does this look good? For me, it's like, it is so beautiful. And here I have a real flower, and this is my not so real flower. Yeah, I think they work together, right? So this is just a little bit brighter on some side, on one side, and lighter on the other side. And this is my Wafer Paper Hydrangea flower. And I'm going to wait for my leaf to dry, and then I'm going to apply my leaf to my tiny arrangement. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, I'm back. And how many flowers I have here? I have 5 tiny flowers in this arrangement, and I counted them, and these large like real flowers, they do have about 30 to 50 flowers on each thing, flower head, something. Yeah, so you can do this and assemble in these smaller arrangements and then wire them together, or just use it on a cupcake or on your Mother's Day cake or something, and you can store them in a cupboard, in a box forever. Nothing is going to happen to your wafer paper. Let me check all your comments.